So what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another Zombies Q&A on the channel, the series where I take your questions from the comment section below to do the zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and I answer them. As always, if you're going to enjoy today's video, you know what to do. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. But let's get into it. Here we go and enjoy. So the first question of the day is from Void, and you say, "Hi BOA, if Dr. Monty does not return in Black Ops Cold War, who will be supplying our characters with perks and weapons? Also, love your videos." So if for some reason you weren't aware by now, all throughout our zombie storyline, from the beginning back in World at War 2BO4, as a part of the Aether story, it has been one character who has been supplying all of our characters, whether it's the Primis crew, the Ultimus crew, Victus, the Shadows of Evil characters, the Call of the Dead cast. It has been one person supplying all of our characters with the perk machines, the gobblegums, the power-ups such as the max ammo, the nukes, the insta-kills, the double points, along with the chalk drawings of the weapons on the walls, the mystery box. The one person that gives all of these things to our characters and transports them from map to map, including the pack-a-punch machine, I forgot to mention that, but that is Dr. Monty. He was the one supplying us with all of these. But now in Black Ops Cold War, since it takes place after Tag Der Toten and at the end of Tag, Dr. Monty was banished back to the Dark Aether. We are still in the Aether universe on the next chapter. We've already seen in the Black Ops Cold War trailer, the Pack-a-Punch is returning, so are the power-ups and perks. However, the perk machines do look and work slightly different, but we are still getting them. So if during the time of Black Ops Cold War, Dr. Monty is trapped in the Dark Aether, then who is going to be the person giving us all of these things? Because we are still going to be in the Aether universe, Cold War Zombies is still canon, Dr. Monty still exists, surely it can't be someone else. We don't know of any other big character other than the Shadow Man, anyone else who has magical powers or the ability to move things from map to map. So the only two characters I can think of that would be able to do this is Dr. Monty or the Shadow Man. Saying that though, we don't know 100% if the Shadow Man does have these abilities, since he and Dr. Monty are pretty much the same. Dr. Monty is slightly more powerful, I would assume so though, but they are both trapped in the Dark Aether. The cycle is over. Would Dr. Monty's powers even work from inside of the Dark Aether? And also, why would he want to help out the characters in Black Ops Cold War Zombies? They are no longer a part of his cycle. The only reason he gave all of these things to our characters in the first place was to keep the loop going, but the loop is now broken. So Monty, even if he could, has no reason from what I can see to help the characters in Black Ops Cold War Zombies, which to me either means two things. It is still him providing us with all of these things, or it is someone else. Maybe the Shadow Man, maybe another mystical figure that we don't know of. It could be no one. And whilst we're still on this topic, another thing I did want to talk about, which could actually help us answering this, is even towards the end of Black Ops 4, when the cycle was broken in Blood of the Dead, even after that on maps such as Alpha Omega and Tag Der Toten, when Dr. Monty knew that Primis and Ultimus were betraying him, we were still being provided with power-ups, perks, Pack-a-Punch and stuff like that. So in Alpha Omega and Tag Der Toten, Dr. Monty was still helping the Primis and Ultimus characters, even though they were trying to kill him. That doesn't make sense. He was essentially aiding his own death. So maybe even during those two maps, it was someone else providing us with all of these things? Or is there the slight chance it was still Dr. Monty, perhaps just hoping Primis and Ultimus would change their minds and continue on with the cycle? But yeah, who's going to be the one supplying our characters in BO Cold War Zombies? We don't know. It wouldn't really make sense for it to be Dr. Monty, but then on the other hand, it does, because maybe he thinks if he helps the characters in Black Ops Cold War Zombies, he can manipulate them, just like he did with Primis and Ultimus, into helping him escape from the Dark Aether. It's going to be very interesting, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The next question from Roman says, how many times did Ultimus and Primis die as a part of the cycle, or any of the other Zombies characters? Okay, so in Revelations, there's actually a really interesting quote from Dr. Monty, where he mentions how many times Dempsey has given his life.
On over 18 million occasions, Dempsey gave his life for the sake of his team. He's a bona fide American hero.
As you just heard, he says on over 18 million occasions, Dempsey gave his life for the sake of his teammates. So we have Dr. Monty telling us Dempsey has died 18 million times. Now I suppose you could take this another way. He could mean in 18 million different universes Dempsey has died. We don't know how many universes existed in the Zombies multiverse, but 18 million does seem quite a lot. But Dr. Monty does tell us Dempsey gave his life, he sacrificed himself or died over 18 million times. And that's just for Dempsey. We don't know how many times Richthofen died, or Takeo, Nikolai, even other characters that were a part of the cycle. Victus have died multiple times. We saw evidence of that in the Die Rise intro cutscene. They are overrun by the zombies, killed and respawn again. The cycle resets, and if we take a look at certain trailers such as the Gorod Kurovi trailer or the Zetsubo no Shima one, or more recent Blood of the Dead, we see our characters die in the trailers. These trailers are an example of the cycle. Even without these, we know our characters have died many times, but this is just evidence of that. Here we can see Brutus carrying Takeo's dead body before he throws it into the water. In the Zetsubo no Shima trailer, we see Richthofen being eaten by a thrasher, or Takeo kills Richthofen and the characters. They are lying dead on the floor in front of him. In the Gorod Kurovi trailer, we see Nikolai kills Primis, so clearly at certain points throughout the cycle, sometimes they end up killing each other for whatever reason. Maybe they end up falling out, other times they end up sacrificing themselves to one another, and other times they are just simply overrun and killed by the zombies. But this didn't matter because they were in a loop. Every time they died, they were sent back to the beginning. And one of the more famous times of this happening was back during the Great War. It was there in the 1300s where post-Revelations Richthofen, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey died. They were killed. We still don't know how, whether it was death by the zombies or the apothecons, the Shadow Man or something else, we are not sure, but they died during the Great War in 1300, and that was the point when the cycle reset and they were reborn again hundreds of years later in 1900's Origins. So there's loads of evidence of our characters dying, and Dr. Monty tells us in Revelations that Dempsey died, or he gave himself for the sake of his teammates, 18 million times. Is that to say that the cycle has replayed out 18 million times before, or even more than that? How many times has Richthofen, Takeo and Nikolai died? I was going to say that's something I'd love to find out, but it's kind of not. Not that them dying mattered anyway, because they could just respawn again. If they died after the cycle was broken, so after Mob in Alpha Omega or Tag der Toten, it would have mattered then because there would be no respawning for them. The cycle no longer existed, so they had to get things right. But if they failed previous to that, it didn't matter. Dr. Monty could just reset the cycle. And actually, before I move on to the next question, I just want to play you a couple more quotes from Dr. Monty and some of the things he says, because they are quite funny.
Tank Dempsey once caught his testicles in the springs of a bed frame, and he lived to tell the tale. So remember, kids, keep your mattresses tight. Dempsey can throw a grenade farther than the greatest professional baseball players. He attributes this skill to his solitary arm training regime. The only time Tank Dempsey ever feared for his life was 15 minutes after taking an ill-advised bet. Tank Dempsey once bet $50 that he could eat 50 hard-boiled eggs in 15 minutes. It's rumored that Tank Dempsey's real name is Thomas. Nah, not true. It's Ringo. Only joking. Or am I? Tank Dempsey holds the all-time record for one-arm push-ups, even in the universe where everyone only had one.
So that was what Dr. Monty said. Don't really what to make of that. Pretty weird anyway. The next question of the day is from CoolCar108, and you say, when Stuhlinger and the others ate the zombie meat, why did Richthofen choose Stuhlinger to complete his quest and not the others? Love your videos, keep up the great work. Well, Richthofen had to choose someone who could hear him, so someone who ate the flesh of the undead. There were many other people besides from Stuhlinger that did this. We don't exactly know how many people were a part of flesh, how many people specifically ate undead meat, but it was definitely more than one. If we quickly go over to the Canonium, it tells us, through the consumption of undead meat, the flesh begin hearing Richthofen's voice. He tries to persuade them to build global polarization devices for him in pursuit of his new plan, to mend the rift in space and time and acquire full control of the Aether. So Richthofen wasn't only talking to Stuhlinger, he spoke to many members of the flesh in their heads since they could all hear him. But shortly after, a fight broke out between the flesh and a group of survivors that followed Maxis's orders. Only a few people made it out alive. One of them was Stuhlinger, but there were still other members of the flesh that remained. So why Richthofen picked Stuhlinger and focused on him instead of the other remaining survivors, we don't really know. Maybe it was just a random pick, maybe it was lucky, maybe he knew what was to come. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway guys, there we go, that is it. That is all I have for you for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Leave any thoughts you have in the comment section below and your questions as well. But until next time, goodbye.